All right. Welcome to Government 2305. So you have signed up for Summer Session 1. This is an abbreviated, obviously, summer courses go a little bit faster. Lone Star will tell you that this is a 6-week course. It really boils down to about 5 weeks because that last week is a couple of days and that's it. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Professor Baker. So I will be your professor for the next a little over a month here as we go through Government 2305, which is the federal government course for Lone Star College. In addition to teaching this class, I do teach Texas government, which is Government 2306 as well. I've taught History 1301 and 1302, which are basically pre-Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction U.S. history. And sometime in the next school year, I'll be teaching Sociology 1301 through Lone Star as well. So obviously that tells you I'm in a lot of different departments at Lone Star College. That is because I am predominantly a dual credit professor. So obviously this is a full college course. I do know that there's probably some of you here that are enrolled in this online course and you will be earning high school credit for it as well. I understand that, but this is not a dual credit course in that sense, right? So it's a little bit different for you. And if you have questions, by all means, reach out, and I hope I can help you, especially if you are in LCISD, as that's the high school district where I work. Again, just continuing my background here, I've been working with Lone Star, I believe I told you, or maybe I haven't told you, since 2019, I believe. So a little less than a decade. This is the course that I teach most frequently, both on the high school campus that I work at, and it is pretty much the only course that I teach as an adjunct. So this is the only online course that I teach regularly, and I usually teach 2 of them in the fall, 2 in the spring, and then 2 here we are in the summer. So a little bit more about my background. I did my undergraduate work at the University of North Carolina, or completed my undergraduate work at the University of North Carolina. I am a product of the community college system myself. I went to 2 different community colleges predominantly while I was on active duty in the United States military, and then finished up essentially the 2-year requirements. Went to the University of North Carolina where I double majored in English and history. Then went to California and got a master's degree in education there. And then since that point in time, I've gone back to Sam Houston State on multiple occasions in order to meet the graduate requirements for political science, U.S. history, and now I am currently actually enrolled myself at Sam Houston State yet again to be able to complete the required courses to teach the sociology class that I'm slated to teach in January. So that's my educational background. As I mentioned earlier, I've been working as an adjunct professor now for 7 or 8 years, whatever it's been, and work pretty much year round as an adjunct professor for Lone Star. And then I also teach at a high school, predominantly dual credit courses. The current high school that I teach at is Fulshire High School, which is an LCISD, although I used to teach at George Ranch High School prior to being at Fulshire. And then I'm actually married to a teacher at Cinco Ranch. So I do know a little bit about Katy for that reason. And then I've had some colleagues through the dual credit programs that teach in the Cy-Fair district. And I've had students that are Cy-Fair students, Cy-Fair dual credit students in the summertime. So I know a little bit about that district as well and might be able to help you there if you had questions as it pertained to the high school side of things. Because this is an online course, I need you to understand most of what you're going to be doing is sort of on your own, self-paced. That being said, obviously there's not direct lectures. There are not, everything here is asynchronous, right? Meaning that there are not specific times you're going to have to log on to a computer and meet with me via Zoom or things of that nature. I have over the years, and I update them from time to time. I re-record from time to time because this is political science. It's a very current event sort of structured course. Obviously, as new presidents enter office, as new congressional pieces of legislation are passed, the course changes, the areas of emphasis might shift slightly. And so I record all of my lectures for my face-to-face courses. And I usually record them every, let's say 3 years. I will re-record everything that I've done, and I will upload those to a YouTube channel, and I'll sort of delete the old ones. And so you do have access to that YouTube channel. I've posted that in the very first module, the beginning information module. I call it supplemental material. You're welcome to look at it. It is not a requirement. You do not have to. If you do better reading your textbook, you can read the textbook and learn that way. There are PowerPoint presentations that come out of a textbook, which is, from my understanding, it's supposed to be the approved textbook for this course, although they change that on me from time to time. But there are some PowerPoints that go along with that. And so you should have, I hope you have enough resources to be able to successfully complete the course. Essentially, the outline of the class is going to look like this. So I told you it's 5 weeks. Week 1 is a little easy. It's a little different, right? So you'll see an introductory quiz that you're welcome to do. You don't have to. It's basically over information in this video and over the syllabus. But it will get you some practice with the Lockdown browser, which is a requirement for the 3 unit exams. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, obviously it's not graded. It's not an assignment, not a requirement. Additionally, the first week, you will complete a political spectrum test, and you will upload a certificate to that. You'll actually realize as we get through this, this is political science. And so one of the things that I sort of explain to all of my students is that political science, as we talk about politics is just the discussions and the disagreements about the implementation of policy at a governmental level. That sounds very complex, but let me break it down to you very simply, right? Government makes rules. That's essentially what policy is, right? That policy could be pertaining to the amount of emissions that a car can emit while it's being driven, or how much U.S. currency is in circulation, or where that money is being spent by government. All of that is policy. Okay? And politics is basically the disagreement or the discussion over policy. And so it's worth understanding that that this class, political science as a course, is a very, very opinionated course, right? And what that means is we're going to have disagreements over what types of policies the government should undertake. And that's completely fine, right? We need to be able to have more civil disagreements in this nation as it is. That's unfortunately a concept that we've begun to lose and sort of deteriorate. But what that means is that then there's a substantial amount of the course, which is sort of opinion-based. And so what you will find when you're looking at your assignments, you're writing assignments, whether those are the discussions, and you'll do one discussion board every week. You'll have one, what I call a short response every week. And again, when I say every week, what I really mean is that you will have 4. You'll have 4 discussions, you'll have 4 short responses. And I told you it's a sort of 6-week course, right? But the last week is only a couple of days, so there's no short response or discussion for that. And then we will have 1 week where there is no assignment other than your term paper, your long essay. And so the long essay, similar to the discussion boards and to the short responses, is an opinion-based paper. And so what I'm looking for, because I do have students all the time that are sort of terrified of the idea of opinion-based questions, because what that means is that they're worried now that the grading becomes subjective, which is not a good thing. It's not, grading shouldn't really be subjective. Because if it's subjective, then you have no idea what the standard is or what the expectations are, and it would be very hard for you to achieve the grade that you earn or that you so desire. So let me put that at rest. Essentially, what I'm looking for is sort of whether or not you can back up your opinion, right? And whether or not you can sort of logically back up your opinion. And so there's not right answers. There are some wrong answers, and we'll go over that in a second, but there's not really right answers, okay? And so what that means is that you can have your opinion as it pertains to a wide variety of issues, and your opinion is fine. And as you go to do your writing, so long as you're providing your opinion and providing the justification for your opinion, and that justification is sound justification, you're good, okay? Even if it's not what I personally believe. And so let me try to help you here and lay this out for you, right? We'll use healthcare as the example, because healthcare is a public policy, right? So obviously different people in America can have different disagreements about healthcare. And healthcare is something that the government absolutely needs to have discussion over. And so here's what I would tell you. If you tell me that healthcare is a commodity, right? And a commodity just means something that is bought and sold, right? So I go to a doctor, I'm buying care from that doctor. It's a commodity. It's my money. I choose the doctor of my choosing. I pay whatever he so desires to charge me, right? If I'm unhappy with what he wants to charge me, I go and see another doctor and I pay her instead, whatever, right? That's the basic concept of a commodity, right? Walmart provides commodities. If I don't like Walmart's tomatoes, I can go to H-E-B, whatever. And so that would be one idea about policy that you have as pertains to healthcare, right? Number two is that you could believe that healthcare is a public sort of good. It's a public service, right? Meaning that it's something that ought to be provided by government. And that means that government should raise taxes or raise money via taxation. I'm not saying increase taxes from what they are now, but that's the only way government can make money is via taxation. That's it. Government cannot make money in any other way. And so government would tax, and then they would take those tax revenues and they would use that to pay for the health care of their citizens. Okay, so that would be a public policy, right? So either one of those are 100% accurate and they're valid, and you can absolutely believe that. And we can have disagreements as to whether or not a free market commodity system would be better, or a sort of single payer government sponsored public healthcare system would be better. Those either one are valid opinions. Okay. What is not a valid opinion is telling me that healthcare is a right that you have. It's not a right. It can't be a right. Now, again, it can be a public good that ought to be provided by the government, but you cannot tell me that you have a right to healthcare, because if you were to have a right to healthcare, right, that means that you have a right to the labor of a doctor. Okay? If you have a right to the labor of another human being, that is by definition slavery, which is not acceptable. Okay, so I want to make sure that there's some clarification there, because that's essentially sort of what I'm looking for, right? If you want to tell me that government is in the best place to provide for the general well-being, the healthcare of the population, right, and the Constitution, or the preamble of the Constitution says that the Constitution exists to promote the general welfare, which healthcare would be a part of that. Right. Again, absolutely valid and a worthwhile sort of discourse within the class. Okay. So hopefully that clears that up a little bit. But that's the idea. So let's see what else. I was going over the scheduling. That's where I was before we get into it. So you have a short response. So there will be some news article that you'll read. I believe there's one little video that you'll watch instead of a news article. And then you're just sort of responding to what it is that you read or saw, right? There's some guiding questions there that are meant to help you, right? But what I want is a response, and those responses then are opinionated. Okay, so when it comes to the short response, it's not one for this course, but in my longer full semester course, right, they have a short response over the filibuster and whether or not the filibuster is a good tool for the United States Senate, right? Now, I do think the filibuster is mentioned in the short response that you have, but I don't believe it is a predominant part. I think I go into more I know I go into more detail with it with my full semester long course, right? But here's what I want you to understand is if your short response is the history of the filibuster, the purpose of the filibuster, the current uses of the filibuster, and the current rules of the filibuster, and that's what you've created, or that's what you've turned in is your 250 words, your one well-developed paragraph on the history of the filibuster, that's not a response, right? That doesn't further some sort of discourse or discussion. There's no opinion there as to whether or not the filibuster is a valid tool, good tool, useful tool of the United States Senate. Okay. So I want you to understand that's ultimately what I'm looking for in those short responses. There's really no way to do your long essay without meeting that requirement. Okay. And so then the long essay is essentially this. You're going to find a Supreme Court case that you think was decided incorrectly, right? A case that was decided from 1953 to the present. Okay, so that's basically the last four courts, which is the Warren Court, the Burger Court, the Rehnquist Court, or the Roberts Court. We name our courts after the Chief Justices. And so those are the last four Chief Justices of the United States Supreme Court that we've had. And those Chief Justices, that's since 1953. So you're looking for a case decided since 1953 to the present, cannot have been overturned by another case, right? So you cannot write your dissenting opinion on Roe versus Wade, for instance, because that is the majority opinion on Dobbs v. Jackson. Okay. But what you're writing is a dissenting opinion. So you're telling me why the court was wrong. And that is because I am a big believer that dissent is ultimately the singular most important factor within government. And what I mean by that, and this is one of the things that I talk about with my full semester course, and we talk about with the longer courses, as we look at significant migratory patterns within the United States today. And this is one of the reasons why I'm actually doing some work in sociology now as well, because it's kind of difficult to teach this class without teaching sociology and psychology and economics as well. But we're seeing some significant migratory patterns within the United States. And what that means is that people in the United States are moving. They're leaving, going from one state to another. And so ultimately, one of the things that we're finding is you're getting a mass migration of Republicans out of California, for instance, that are then moving to Montana or Idaho or maybe Texas, although we do have a significant number of California Democrats that are moving into the Austin area, right? But ultimately what you see is more homogeny in intellectual thought, right? And specifically as it pertains to politics, right? What that means is that Republicans are are leaving democratically controlled areas and moving to Republican controlled areas, and Democrats are doing the opposite, right? If you're a Democrat living in a Republican controlled area and you have the means to exit that Republican controlled area and go move to a Democratic controlled area, you'll do that. That's what we're finding today. That is not good. And that's just an opinion, but I don't think that that's very good. And one of the things that I try to explain to my full semester course is how that leads to a lack of diversity of thought. And diversity of thought is absolutely essential. The only way that you know whether or not an idea is a good idea is if people challenge you on it. This is one of the reasons why I'll just speak from personal experience, right? Why 17-year-old boys make very, very bad decisions when it comes to like, hey, should we drag race our cars down the street, right? Because all like 10, 17-year-old boys that are right there are like, that's a great idea. No, it's not. It's not a good idea. But nobody, because it's just 17-year-old boys, nobody goes, I don't think this is a very good idea. It's not real smart to do that right now. So that concept of dissenting opinions is one that I find to be absolutely essential. Just to run through a couple of other things in case you really care. The introductory quiz actually tells me a fair amount about you, interestingly enough. The political spectrum quiz does as well. But if you've sat through this video for long enough because you want all the correct answers to the quiz that's not even going in the grade book and doesn't matter, I'll provide you with the last bit of like personal information that you would need. So I'm not from Texas originally. I'm actually originally from West Virginia. Obviously, I told you I was in the military, and then I went to college in North Carolina, and I went to grad school in California, and I've been in Texas now for 13 years, I believe. Most of my teaching career, although I did not even start my teaching career here in Texas. I did mention earlier I'm married to a teacher, right? My wife teaches at Cinco Ranch High School, and we have 3 kids together. So my personal life is rather full as well. I actually am generally the type of person that takes on more responsibility than what I probably should. I tend to stretch myself pretty thin in life. And so I will be honest, that means that I won't always get things turned around, especially the grading, as fast as I would like, and especially the long essays, because I do take a little time to grade those. And then this is probably worth going through too, because if you were to ever go to like Rate My Professor and look me up, my rating it's not great, it's not terrible. Did have a student that apparently took umbrage with the way I graded. I need you to understand, one, it's not ever meant to be derogatory or mean or cruel. I am a contrarian by nature. If you tell me that, ketchup belongs on hot dogs, I'll tell you that it doesn't, right? Doesn't mean I don't put ketchup on a hot dog from time to time. That's just sort of my nature. And I believe, again, it goes back to my sort of ideologies as pertains to dissenting opinions. I think that's sort of essential. And so I want you to understand that when whether it's the short responses or the discussion boards or the long essay, you will tell me A, and I will put a comment on there. Did you think about B? Doesn't mean that you're getting marked down for it. It doesn't mean that you've failed to address some topic or concept that you needed to address. It just means that you have brought up a point that has counterpoints or other alternatives, and if you didn't address it, I'll simply ask, did you think about this, right? Most of my comments are questions. So I want you to understand that it's not meant to be gotcha questions. It really is meant to be a means of trying to further your thinking about things. I personally do not care about grades, right? If you pay attention at all to grades, I mean, Harvard literally just passed a policy that caps the number of A's that they can give out in undergraduate classes to 20%, because apparently at Harvard, over 60% of all grades awarded in undergraduate classes had become A's because of grade inflation. That's a whole longer conversation for another time, but I do believe that grade inflation exists. That being said, I also genuinely hope to give everybody an A. I don't particularly care about your grade one way or the other. What I care about is your learning. I want you to learn and grow because, as I tell my face-to-face students, I do genuinely believe that this is the most important class, or one of the most important classes you take. I think that your high school government class is arguably the most important class that you take, and on some level it actually sort of pains me if you are taking this as a high school student right now as a dual credit course, and you're going to knock out all of the government you will ever take in 5 weeks. It makes me a little sad because I don't think that you will learn everything that you need to learn in order to be a well-informed voter. And as I tell my students all the time, democracy is only as successful as the electorate is knowledgeable. So it is what it is. Again, if you need me at any point in time this semester, just reach out. I'm very, very quick to respond to emails. I will tell you, I am, the day before this class begins, I will actually be traveling to Oklahoma, and I will be in a week-long seminar on the Constitution, American Constitutional Heritage, up at the University of Oklahoma, that I've gone to in the past. It's a pretty good academic conference that I enjoy. That means that I'll be driving back from Oklahoma on that Thursday. I think it's the 11th. So understand that if you email me that day, probably not going to get back to you in an hour or two. The same would be true for, I believe, Tuesday the 15th. I will be traveling to North Carolina to see my in-laws. And then I'll be coming back from my in-laws at some point in time at the end of the month. And so there will be a couple of occasions where it will take me longer than a couple of hours, but I actually have all my emails come into my phone. And so I will generally respond very, very quickly. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. I am a firm believer that there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you have a desire to know something, and it is within my knowledge, I will pass that on for you. If it is something I do not know, I will either try to direct you to the correct person if it's a Lone Star related question or a high school related question, or I will try to find out the information for you and we'll try to figure it out together. So please do reach out. That being said, please ensure that you reach out to me utilizing your Lone Star email address and going to my Lone Star email address. That way we ensure it doesn't go to spam. I did have a student, summer school student a few years ago that was emailing me from a Gmail or a Hotmail account. It was some, it was their personal account. And we got to the 4th or 5th week before I finally got a hold of them, and I was unaware that they had been trying to reach me all that time. So please do email from your Lone Star account. I look forward to a great semester. Again, if you have questions, please let me know. Thank you.